I loved her. I believed her. But the truth was not written in words. It was written in the column, Father. On our daughter's certificate. And once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. It sits with you. It rewrites every memory in its wake. It's strange how you can live inside a lie and still drift off to sleep like everything's fine. Not because you're naive, though maybe that's part of it, but because the truth doesn't punch you in the face. It creeps in. Slow. Like water slipping under a doorframe. Looking back, the signs were there. Nothing obvious. No smeared lipstick, no unexplained receipts, no broken zippers. Just moments. A silence that stretched too long. A glance exchanged and then abruptly ended the second I stepped into the room. The way she'd look at our daughter sometimes, like she was carrying something she couldn't set down. But I didn't see it, or maybe I did, and I chose not to. She still told me she loved me each morning. Still sent me texts with little jokes or reminders about groceries. Still laughed at my dumb one-liners, the better ones, at least. We had pictures. Holidays. Movie nights. From the outside, we looked like a page in a photo album. But from the inside, there were cracks I hadn't learned to see yet. Then there was our daughter. God, I loved that little girl. I'd sit in the dim light of the nursery, just watching her breathe in my arms. She was my peace. But once or twice, and I still hate admitting this, I found myself wondering why she looked different. Not strange. Just not like me. Narrow nose. Sharper jaw. Eyes like lake glass. Everyone said she was beautiful, and she was. But when someone said, she's got her mother's eyes, no one ever added mine to the conversation. I brushed it off. Genetics can be odd. Recessive genes, skipped generations, all that stuff. Then came Daniel. My stepfather. A man whose presence filled the air even when he wasn't around. He'd been involved for years, helped fix things around the house, dropped off tools I never asked for. Always present. A little too present. And my wife? She was always polite. Not family kind of polite. Stranger kind of polite. The kind that's cautious. Careful. Controlled. But even then, I didn't see it. When our daughter was born, Daniel brought flowers and a stuffed giraffe to the hospital. Said it reminded him of a zoo trip he took with my wife when they helped move my mother into assisted living. I laughed at the time, thought it was an oddly sentimental gift from someone who usually gave socks or duct tape for Christmas. But again, I wrote it off. She said she was tired. Hormonal. I believed her. I believed everything. That's what stays with me now. Not the betrayal, but the fact that I allowed it. That I didn't ask questions. That I missed what was right in front of me. The truth didn't arrive with alarm bells. It came quietly. Started with a checkup. A doctor's visit. Just a routine pediatric appointment. The pediatrician looked over the chart, then at us, and casually asked something I'll never forget, even if I wish I could. So, you're the grandfather? My wife froze. I laughed. No, I'm the father. The doctor glanced at the file again. Oh, must be a mistake. It says here, Father, Daniel Morgan. My stomach dropped like a trapdoor had opened. She jumped in immediately. That's a paperwork mix-up, she said with a small laugh. We used Daniel's insurance once, long story, billing issues. Nothing to worry about. I nodded, but something inside me shifted. Just a little. The first cold touch of the truth on the back of my neck. I didn't say anything. We finished the checkup. Smiled for the nurse. Drove home in silence. But everything had changed. That night, I couldn't sleep. She lay beside me, curled away, breathing steady like nothing had happened. But my mind? It wouldn't stop spinning. I kept seeing that name on the chart. Daniel Morgan. My stepfather. Why would his name appear on anything linked to our daughter? I stared at the ceiling for hours, trying to fit pieces together that maybe didn't even belong in the same puzzle. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. That's never been my style. But doubt? It doesn't need an invitation. It finds a crack and grows like ivy. I didn't confront her. Something in me hesitated. Call it fear. Call it instinct. I told myself I was watching, gathering. But if I'm honest, I think I was just hoping for something, anything, to prove I was wrong. The days that followed, everything looked different. Daniel started showing up more. Used to call ahead. Now he just appeared, like he owned the welcome mat. Always with something in hand, baby wipes, tiny socks, a new teething toy. Before, I thought it was sweet. Now it felt personal. Overly invested. One afternoon, I found them on the back porch. She said he was helping fix the screen latch. But they stood too close. Not touching. Not flirty. But off. Like two people caught in the gravity of a shared memory they couldn't acknowledge. When I stepped outside, they went quiet. Daniel nodded and mumbled something about needing to leave. She smiled too fast and asked if I was hungry. I didn't answer. I just looked at the latch and said, thought I was going to do that. You've been busy, she replied, already walking back inside. She wasn't wrong. I had been busy, work, overtime, the usual grind. I told myself I was doing it for the family. For our future. Meanwhile, Daniel had time for porch visits and shared silences. The more I noticed, the more I couldn't unsee. One night, while she was in the shower, I picked up her phone. Not my proudest moment. I'd never done that before. But I wasn't trying to spy. I just needed clarity. A foothold in a story that no longer felt like mine. There was nothing. No messages from Daniel. No missed calls. No photos. No texts. Too clean. Like a kitchen just scrubbed before company comes over. That's when I remembered something. A few weeks earlier, she'd laughed about a weird tool Daniel had sent her a photo of. Said it looked like something from the Middle Ages. But there was no photo. No message. Gone. I put the phone back. Returned to bed. But sleep didn't come. Just silence. And a growing suspicion that my life had been edited while I wasn't looking. The next morning, I watched her cradle our daughter in the soft light spilling through the curtains. She looked so peaceful, so maternal. I wanted to believe in that moment, in her, in us, in the life I thought we were living. But something had cracked. And no matter how hard I tried to seal it, the cold air kept getting in. Then came the slip-up. We were visiting her parents the next weekend. Daniel was there too, of course. She passed the baby to her mom and walked into the kitchen. Daniel followed. I stayed behind, holding a beer I didn't want, listening. They weren't whispering. But they weren't exactly loud, either. She said, "We can't keep doing this." He replied, "It's too late to stop now." That was it. 2 sentences. But they hit harder than a confession. I stood in that hallway, staring at the floor, ears burning. When I finally walked into the kitchen, they were laughing. Natural. Comfortable. Like nothing had just cracked the air wide open. Daniel clapped me on the shoulder. "Still standing, huh?" "Barely," I muttered. He laughed louder. She turned toward the stove. "Dinner's almost ready." And just like that, the scene reset. The masks went back on. But inside, I was already starting to come undone. After that dinner at her parents' place, something inside me refused to go back to sleep. Those words, "We can't keep doing this." It's too late to stop now. They kept looping in my head like a song I never wanted to learn. I tried to explain them away. Maybe they were planning something for my birthday. Maybe it was a surprise getaway. But no matter how I bent it, the words didn't fit into anything innocent. So I did what a lot of scared people do, I pretended nothing had changed. I kissed my wife. Held the baby. Went to work. Smiled at the neighbors. But inside, the floor was shifting. Every normal moment felt like a scene in a play I hadn't auditioned for. That's when I really started paying attention. And what I saw couldn't be unseen. She kept locking her phone. Even at home. Even during dinner. Daniel started saying goodbye to the baby more than he said goodbye to me. Her mom looked at me strangely now, not with sympathy, but with something closer to shame. Then came the photo. Her sister sent it in a family group chat, just a random shot from a birthday party a few weeks earlier. Nothing special. Until I zoomed in. In the background, there they were, my wife and Daniel. Alone in the kitchen. She had her hand on his arm. Not a casual touch. A grip. And the way she was looking at him. I had never seen her look at me like that. That image followed me everywhere. Into my truck. Into the shop. Into bed. I started watching her like a stranger would, examining her body language, her timing, her tone. One night, while she slept, I opened the drawer where we kept the baby's documents. Birth certificate. Vaccination forms. Hospital bills. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. But when I pulled out the birth certificate, something caught my eye. The section labeled father looked different. Same name. My name. But the font didn't match the rest of the document. It was slightly newer. Slightly bolder. As if someone had gone back and added it after the fact. I ran my finger across the ink. It felt newer. The paper, slightly crinkled. Someone had changed it. And you don't change a birth certificate unless you've got something to hide. The next morning, I made a call. An old friend, Ryan, worked in legal records, a courthouse guy with quiet access and a strong sense of loyalty. I asked him to check the hospital's original registration. No names, just the date. Played it cool, like I was following up on a clerical error. He said he'd look into it. While I waited, I walked through our home like I was visiting someone else's life. The photos. The furniture. The toys scattered across the floor. All of it felt foreign. Like I was in a museum of memories that didn't belong to me. Then Ryan called. He didn't start with a joke. Didn't ease into it. Just said, "Hey." I checked. I swallowed. And the name listed as father on the original hospital form wasn't yours. Silence. I couldn't speak. My grip tightened around the phone like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Then who? I finally asked. A pause. Then, Daniel Morgan. It felt like all the air had been sucked out of the world. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. Just sat there, in my truck, in the parking lot of the hardware store, staring at the dashboard like it could give me answers. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't paranoid. And I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. Because if I was going to dismantle this story, I needed to see the whole thing. Every chapter. Every hidden paragraph. I needed the truth, the real kind. And I wasn't stopping until I had it. There's a moment, just after grief, before rage, where everything feels eerily still. Not peace. Not acceptance. Something colder. Sharper. Purpose. That's where I was. I sat in my truck for over an hour after that call from Ryan. Didn't move. Didn't cry. I just tapped my fingers on the steering wheel, staring at the world like it was something I'd never seen before. Daniel Morgan. My stepfather. Listed as the father of my child. And my wife. Silent. Not because she didn't know. But because silence was her answer all along. That night, I played my role like nothing had changed. Put the baby to bed. Washed the bottles. Asked her about her day. She said it was fine. Kissed my cheek like she always did. But I didn't kiss her back. I told her I had to prep for an early delivery at the shop. She barely looked up from her phone. By midnight, I was in my office, buried in paperwork. I pulled out everything I could find: hospital bills, insurance records, our shared calendar. I combed through it all, not sure what I was searching for until I saw it, a 4-day block, 2 months before the birth, marked Mom's house, helping with the move. I remembered it. My mother had a minor fall. I drove down to help her rearrange furniture and set up a few safety rails. I'd been gone 4 nights. And during that time, according to a neighbor, Daniel had visited our house 3 times. Once, well past 10 p.m. He wasn't the kind of guy who just stopped by. Not unless he was asked. That sat in my gut like a stone. I pulled up an old photo she'd sent me while I was gone, a late-night selfie, her in bed with our dog. She looked relaxed. Unbothered. But then I zoomed in. In the reflection of the TV screen across the room, a silhouette. Tall. Broad shoulders. Receding hairline. Daniel. I dropped my phone. Not in anger. In clarity. Everything I thought I knew about my life was unraveling. The man I once called Dad had been in my home while I was away, and my wife had smiled through it like she wasn't hiding a second life behind her eyes. The next morning, I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer. Her name was Helen. Recommended by a friend who'd been through a messy split. She didn't waste time. Didn't ask if I was sure. Just handed me a yellow legal pad and said, "Start from the beginning. Don't sugarcoat anything." So I did. I told her everything, even the parts that made me look weak. The doubt. The snooping. The hope I held on to long after it made sense. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, "You've got enough smoke to start a fire. But if you want to win this, we'll need a flamethrower." She gave me a checklist. Get a DNA test. Gather financial records. Document everything: times, texts, bills. Stay quiet. Make no sudden moves. If this turned into what we both suspected, we'd need more than emotion. We'd need evidence. I shook her hand. Walked outside into the freezing morning air. And told myself this was the line. No more pretending. No more waiting for someone else to hand me the truth. This was the part of the story where I stopped being the fool and started becoming the man who took his name back. Getting a DNA test for a child you've loved like your own feels like cutting open your chest to see if your heart's still there. But I did it anyway. I told her it was for insurance, said the new provider needed documentation for dependents. She nodded without hesitation. Didn't ask questions. Didn't even seem curious. That told me everything. 3 days later, the test arrived. Standard kit. Swabs. Envelope. Instructions. I waited until she was out running errands. Our daughter, still just a baby, slept on my chest, her little breath sinking with mine. She had a twitch in her lip when she dreamed, like she was on the verge of a laugh. I always thought it meant she was happy. Now I wondered if she knew something I didn't. Maybe she always had. I swabbed gently. Sealed the test. Dropped it in the post office box with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. That night, my wife asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I said I had work. She shrugged. Disappeared into the bedroom. No good night. No follow-up. 4 days passed. Then the email came. It sat in my inbox for almost 20 minutes before I opened it. My hand hovered over the mouse like I was about to set off a bomb in my own house. Probability of paternity, 0%. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. I just sat there. Still. Everything around me faded. The hum of the fridge. The ticking clock. The entire world went quiet. That night, I lay beside her like usual. Her breathing soft. Peaceful. Like she had nothing to answer for. But I couldn't breathe the same air. I stared at her, the woman I had trusted with everything, and thought, you knew. All this time, you knew. When I finally fell asleep, I dreamed I was falling. No water. No wind. Just gravity, dragging me deeper into something I couldn't stop. And no one even noticed I was gone. The next morning, I called Helen. It's him, I said. Daniel. She didn't ask for proof. She just said, okay. Now we move. We filed a preliminary motion, quiet, strategic. I told no one. Didn't confront her. Didn't break the silence. I played the same role I had for months, loyal, tired, steady. But inside, I was sharpening the edge. Then came the twist I never saw coming. Daniel showed up. Alone. No warning. No reason. Just rang the doorbell like it was Sunday morning. I opened it. He smiled, that same old smile I used to trust. Got something for the little one, he said, lifting a soft, cloud-shaped toy. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. We need to talk. His smile faded. Not here, I added. Follow me. We drove to a diner at the edge of town. Midday. Quiet. Booth near the window. He sat across from me like it was any other lunch. I didn't waste time. She's not mine, I said. He looked down. Didn't deny it. How long? I asked. He sighed. It wasn't supposed to happen. You were with my wife. He nodded. My fists clenched on the edge of the table. She came to me, he added. I didn't push it. That almost made me laugh. I didn't push it, as if that made it noble. You think that matters? I leaned in. He shook his head slowly. I never meant to hurt you. She's your granddaughter. That line finally hit him. His face tightened. Like he was just now processing what he'd done. The waitress came by. We waved her off. I stood. This is going to court. You won't be part of her life. Or mine. And if your wife doesn't find out from me, the courts will. He opened his mouth to respond, maybe to plead, maybe to lie again, but I was done listening. I walked out. Didn't look back. And for the first time, I wasn't in the dark anymore. I was in control. You know what's strange? It's not when you find out your wife has been lying to you for over a year. Not even when you discover it was your stepfather who filled the gap you didn't know was there. No, it's what comes after. The silence. Not the kind that brings peace. The kind that leaves you numb. Like your heart finally gave up trying to understand, and all that's left is the sound of your own breathing in an empty room. We filed for separation the next morning. Helen moved fast. She always said the courtroom isn't about morality, it's about proof. And I had mountains. The DNA results. Phone logs. Security footage from our own porch. Even a paternity claim Daniel had filed, quietly, at the county clerk's office, flagged because my name was already listed. A sloppy move for a man so used to secrets. She never saw it coming. When the papers were served, she stood in the kitchen, barefoot, hair tied up, feeding our daughter mashed bananas like it was any other Tuesday. You're serious? She said, flipping through the documents. I didn't answer. Just stood there. Arms folded. Watching. Her eyes began to gloss over. We don't have to do this. You already did, I replied. Her expression twisted. It was a mistake. No, I said. It was a choice. Every time you let him in. Every time you lied. Every time you pretended I didn't notice. And then I told her what I hadn't said until that moment. She's not mine. That was the real blow. She staggered. Reached for the edge of the counter. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. How did you? She whispered. You left a trail, I said. All liars do. She didn't argue. Just stood there, shrinking by the second. I turned to leave. Paused at the doorway. I would have raised her, I said softly. Loved her. No questions asked. But you took that choice from me. Then I walked out. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Daniel was already there. Sitting behind his attorney. Sunken eyes. A suit that didn't quite fit. His wife wasn't with him. Can't say I blamed her. Mine sat 2 rows behind, flanked by her sister and her father, who couldn't meet my gaze. Maybe he knew. Maybe he was starting to connect the same dots I had ignored for too long. The judge didn't need much time. We submitted the evidence, the DNA, the inconsistencies in the birth record, the concealed relationship. Helen presented it all with surgical precision. Daniel's lawyer tried to shift the tone. Said the relationship developed during a time of emotional stress. That Daniel had been a support system while I was working long hours. Claimed the child had bonded deeply with me. The judge raised an eyebrow. So, let me understand. You're asking the court to hold the husband accountable, financially and emotionally, for a child fathered by his stepfather? Their attorney hesitated. We believe continuity is in the child's best interest. Then the judge turned to me. Mr. Morgan, do you wish to remain in the child's life? I looked toward the back of the courtroom. Our daughter slept in her aunt's arms, unaware of everything being unraveled. Yes, I said. But on my terms. No lies. No confusion. I want the record corrected. The judge nodded. The gavel struck. Silence. Afterward, Daniel tried to approach me outside. I kept walking. His wife, soon to be ex, I assumed, had filed her own petition. Helen told me it covered everything: betrayal, financial misrepresentation, emotional distress. She'd come for blood. As for my wife, we didn't speak again. I packed my things. Left the house, not out of kindness, but as a statement. I wanted her to feel every empty room. Every silent night. Because what was coming? That was just the beginning. The day after court, I met Helen again. She had that look, calm but dangerous. The kind you see on someone who knows exactly where to press to make the whole building fall. We can go after both of them, she said. Not just in family court. Civil, too. I raised an eyebrow. She slid a folder across the table. Inside, timelines, financial reports, phone logs, even the county clerk's flagged paternity attempt. All cross-referenced, all dated. Daniel knowingly undermined your marriage, she said. We have enough to file for intentional infliction of emotional distress. And paternity fraud. And her? I asked. Helen nodded. She benefited from the deception. Financially. Emotionally. Covered documentation. Lied to preserve it. She's equally liable. I closed the folder. Do it. That weekend, we filed 2 lawsuits, one against Daniel for interference and fraud, another against my wife for misrepresentation and damages tied to paternity concealment. They had no idea what was coming. 2 days later, Daniel's lawyer reached out, trying to settle. Offered a modest sum, to avoid public embarrassment. I laughed. Tell him I haven't even started embarrassing him. Then I called his wife. Turns out, she was already halfway down her own path of justice. But she hadn't known the baby was his, not until I told her. I didn't ease into it. Just sent the paperwork. She went quiet. For a long time. Then said, I've been married to him for over 20 years. And I never thought I'd say this, but I hope he ends up alone. We joined forces. Her lawsuits plus mine. 4 in total. Coordinated. Precise. Devastating. She froze their accounts. Took the house. Changed the locks. Told Daniel to leave the keys in the mailbox and not touch the dog, the dishes, or the antique chair she loved more than him. My wife, or ex-wife, soon, tried calling. First it was calm. We need to talk. Then angry. You're destroying everything. Then desperate. What about the baby? I didn't respond. I sent one message. You made your decision. This is mine. She stopped calling. Her lawyer tried damage control. Claimed she was emotionally misled, that she'd been vulnerable. Helen didn't flinch. This isn't about emotions, she said coldly. It's about consequences. Then came the nail in Daniel's coffin. We subpoenaed his employer. Turned out, during several supposed work trips, he'd been visiting my wife. Using the company vehicle. The company credit card. Logging nights under fake client dinners. That made it fraud. Not just adultery. HR got involved. He was asked to resign. Quietly. Immediately. His name was wiped from the website the same day. Their secret hadn't just collapsed, it had documented its own destruction. Meanwhile, I moved into a new place. Small. Quiet. Clean. Mine. And for the first time in months, I slept through the night. Funny how peace doesn't announce itself. It just arrives. Sits beside you. And says. Keep going. But I wasn't done yet. Because the final chapter. That was still coming. Some people think revenge comes with yelling. With slamming doors. With a perfectly timed slap under pouring rain. But real payback? It's quiet. Strategic. It walks in unnoticed, rearranges everything, and leaves, and by the time you realize what's changed, the lights don't work anymore. That's how I wanted it. The baby's first birthday was coming up. Normally, that means balloons, cake, family. But this time, I wasn't invited. Not as a guest. Not even as a ghost. Didn't matter. I had something to deliver. I prepped a package. Neatly wrapped in plain brown paper. Inside, every piece of documentation. DNA reports. Court filings. Timeline breakdowns. Copies of every motion we'd filed. And 2 letters. One addressed to Daniel's wife. The other, to the baby. I know she won't read it for years. Maybe never. But someday, if she ever wonders why the man who rocked her to sleep vanished without warning, she'll have the truth. In my handwriting. Not someone else's version. I watched from a block away as the courier approached the house. Daniel was out front, wearing a pastel polo like he was the friendly neighbor, not the man who detonated 2 families. He waved at guests. Played the doting father-grandfather hybrid like it wasn't a nightmare in plain sight. My wife, no, Lori, stepped outside with the baby. She saw my name on the delivery label. And froze. I didn't need to see inside to know what followed. The hush. The panic. The questions. You can't hide a binder like that. Not when truth comes wrapped in hard edges. Later that night, Helen called. She's rattled, she said. He's panicking. Their lawyer's already asking about mediation. Says it's getting too personal. I laughed. Tell them we're just warming up. The next day, Daniel's ex-wife posted a photo online. Me, her, and an attorney from her firm. Caption: Closure is a dish best served legal. The post blew up. Friends, colleagues, neighbors. People put the pieces together fast. Daniel went from helpful family man to did you hear what he did in less than 48 hours. He deleted his social media before the week was over. Lori tried her own spin. Said it was mistake. Claimed she'd been manipulated. Told mutual friends that I had overreacted. But no one was buying it anymore. Not after the final move. I posted a short statement. No names. No fire. Just facts. I didn't leave my family. My family left me. I was just the last to know. That post. It traveled farther than I ever expected. Colleagues messaged. Old classmates. Even people I barely remembered. Turns out, betrayal is more common than most admit. And silence? It only helps the ones who hide. But the real surprise? Daniel's eldest son, from his first marriage, reached out. Said he'd read everything. Told my mom, he wrote. She always knew something was off about him. That's when I realized, this story wasn't just mine. Some people live their whole lives thinking they can hurt others and walk away clean. Not anymore. I used to think healing would feel like fireworks. Like one morning you'd wake up, stretch, and all the pain would be gone, as if it had just packed up and left while you slept. Turns out, healing is quieter. Sometimes it's just sitting in your car with a cup of cheap coffee, watching the sun creep over the horizon, and realizing you're still breathing. That you're not broken, just bruised. And that's enough. The lawsuits dragged on. Motions. Depositions. Strategy calls with Helen deep into the night. Daniel tried to settle again. Lori begged for a united front. Not for the baby. For the story. She wanted me to soften it. Say we grew apart. That it wasn't really anyone's fault. I didn't give her that. The truth didn't need to be softened. It needed to be heard. Eventually, I moved into a small house near the edge of town. Quiet neighborhood. One story. A porch wide enough for a chair and a drink. I brought only what I needed. Kept the Mustang. She still reminded me of a simpler time, when trust wasn't a puzzle and love didn't come with an asterisk. And strangely, I started liking the silence. No midnight feedings. No faked smiles. No second-guessing every look across the room. Just time. And stillness. And the hum of a refrigerator that didn't lie to me. Then, one morning, a letter showed up. Not from a lawyer. Not from a billing office. From her. Not Lori. The baby. Well, from Lori, written as if from her. Crayon handwriting. Colorful ink. Cute misspellings. I miss you, next to a wobbly red heart. Inside the envelope was a photo. Me and her. On the couch. I'm half asleep, she's smiling like the world was whole. I stared at that photo for what felt like hours. Because here's the thing, I do miss her. She wasn't mine by blood. But I was there. For her first giggle. Her first steps. Her first night sleeping through. Those memories were real. The bond? Also real. The lie was the only thing fake. But I didn't write back. Not because I didn't care. Because I cared too much. Because I knew who the letter was really from. And I wasn't going to be used again. Not even like this. A week later, I met someone. At the coffee shop near the shop. She was reading a book I'd tried twice to understand. We started talking. Not about betrayal or exes or court dates, just stories. Music. Childhood. Normal things. She laughed at something I said, not a forced laugh, not a, being polite, laugh. A real one. It didn't sound like Laurie's. Thank God for that. I'm not saying I'm healed. I'm saying I'm open. There's a difference. Some mornings, I still wake up angry. Some nights, I still feel nothing at all. But more and more, I'm starting to feel something else. Free. I used to think closure was something you had to chase. Like if you ran fast enough, fought hard enough, shouted loud enough, you'd catch it. Pin it down. Wrap it in a bow and hang it on your wall like a trophy. But that's not how it works. Closure doesn't come with a judge's signature or a dollar amount or an overdue apology. It comes when you stop needing those things. Took me a long time to get there. The legal battles dragged longer than I liked. Daniel lost nearly everything, his house, his job, his reputation. Laurie. She kept the house. Fine by me. Every corner of that place was soaked in memories I didn't want anymore. She could have the echo. The walls. The silence. She still sends updates. Emails mostly. School milestones. Holiday snapshots. Little status reports like we're co-managing a life that was never really ours to share. I don't reply. Not because I'm bitter. Because that chapter is closed. And you don't reopen a wound just to check if it still bleeds. As for the little girl, I still think about her. Every day, if I'm being honest. She'll never know what I lost the moment I realized she wasn't mine. But I hope, truly, that she grows up with kindness. With joy. With some version of peace that isn't tangled in the damage her parents caused. Because none of this was her fault. She didn't choose the lies. I did. I chose to love her. To hold her. Rock her. Soothe her when she cried. I chose to be her father in every way that mattered, until the truth took that away. And if that kind of love means anything in this world, I hope she carries a piece of it with her. Even if she never knows where it came from. As for me, I'm not the same man I was. That's not a tragedy. It's not even sad. It's just life. I stopped apologizing for things I didn't break. Stopped trying to fix things that didn't want to be whole. Now, I do small things that remind me I'm alive. Late night drives with the windows down. Terrible coffee at roadside diners. Saturdays with no plans and Sundays with silence. And sometimes, when I'm behind the wheel and the highway's quiet and the air smells like rain that hasn't fallen yet, I catch myself smiling. Not because I'm happy in some dramatic, Hollywood kind of way. But because I survived. And I walked away. That's the ending. Not revenge. Not even justice. Just freedom.